So he's probably got the best water-based. I forget what it's called, like a mariner sword or something like that. It's really good.
Yeah.
I'm not really complaining. My only complaint is I've run out of stamina and I have no one to co-op with.
Yeah, that's always been a problem with the co-op too, right? Because I've played, which this game was better about it. I played a lot of War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which is kind of like a successor to the original Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, though it's not directly connected. It's just the same teams working on it. And that one plays like a Final Fantasy Tactics type game, which has a lot of their own original characters for the story, but through the gachas, you end up collecting characters from other Final Fantasy games. And sometimes from other things that at one point were a Square property. I have Lara Croft in that game because at the time they had owned her.
Yeah. Oh, they are adding Vincent.
Oh, finally. But I guess that makes sense because Rebirth, which is technically the second part of the remake franchise, though it's also the third because there's an interlude in there that is part of the first one, but kind of also a standalone DLC. It's really weird how they're handling that entire franchise. But Rebirth is about the time that Vincent is canonically in the story, like in the disc. That would be about where you could go and start recruiting him. So yeah, it's about time that they added him in.
I guess are we gonna get Sid eventually?
Yeah, he should be around there too. Actually, you should be able. It's weird that they do Vincent first, but he's far more popular. You can get Sid before you can get Vincent.
Yeah. Of course, in Ever Crisis, you don't spin for characters or whatever, roll for characters, so they'll just give it to them. They'd give it to us, but presumably at level 1, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, and that's also because like the characters are more of just class bodies in that game, right? Like they're an empty form for you to fill the class out, and you have to go and add everything. So the only thing that's actually like stuck to the character is what they can use, but they're limit breaks, right? And then you have to go and like unlock them. Which limit break am I going to have equipped at the time? But even then, you're still kind of filling out a class. So like Cloud, you could select which limit break he has, and then you put which weapon, which will have some type of effect on the battlefield, including like some magic or ability that's equipped to the weapon, and then you put in his materials, and boom, you have a Cloud-based class that you made for your character. So the gacha still makes sense. It just doesn't inherently make sense to people who aren't thinking about it because you're used to pulling for a full character, and that is the class in like the other games.
Yeah. All you pull for is the weapons. Like, literally nothing else.
Yeah, but the weapon itself is kind of like a subclass since it comes with effects and abilities. So.
Yeah, a little bit. But honestly, I the fact that you can, each character has 2 slots for like their own character weapons, but then they have 3 additional slots where they can equip any weapon. It just doesn't give them the ability. It just kind of adds to their stats.
And stuff. Yeah.
And then the materia I've found is very important, or not the materia. Well, that is important, but the summons. You can replace your
limit break with a summon.
A summon, and some of those summons are great for certain events. So
yeah, it's been a while since I've touched it, but I think on Tifa, I currently have like Shiva equipped, and that's how I've been going through a lot of the battles. Now,
yeah, I kind of mix and match just whoever I feel like fighting with in any moment.
I think I moved Shiva over to Lucia just because even though it's her base, I kind of like the fact that Somersault gives that physical attack shred to the enemy and can be used twice as often as like a normal limit break. So I think I just put that back on Tifa.
That is a good one. Although, I've found that like if I'm doing like a battle either against Rama or some sort of mechanic or electrical type, I'll switch her to the water kick. That does a lot of damage.
Anyway, welcome to Game Central Junction, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. If you like the show, and our weird nonsensical rambling before we get into any actual topic, you can go and share it with somebody else, get more people in here, we'll have a good time. And if you really enjoy the show, you can go one step beyond and give a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Really helps me out. And we'll get into things. How you doing today?
Good. I don't know what you have a culture lore. I don't care if you have other podcasts.
Oh, you know, it's
yeah,
Midnight Spoon. He's always spouting things. It was something we were talking about
silly.
During Mike's show on one day. I don't know. We were just all in the chat together, and
yeah,
it was we were just talking about random cultural things, and we started like, we should have a new podcast where we deep dive into like the cultural history of places. And like, well, I do like doing research, but Good Night Spoon, I'm not going to sit on camera by myself and just start doing a lecture about this. I mean, if I'm going to do a lecture, I'll probably just do it in video essay format instead. So you'd actually have to be on the show through some type of call format. I wouldn't even care if you used a voice changer, but we're not diving into this unless I have a co-host who wants to dive into culture lore.
Yeah. I don't think I want to do that.
I don't blame you. We already do 2 shows a week anyway.
Yeah, and I obviously have trouble making them 100% of the time. So
yeah. But I don't know. I've been playing a lot of gotchas. You kind of just play the one, but I play quite a few. I juggle between them.
I try all the new ones for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Although I haven't played Zenless Zone Zero.
Yeah.
But
like, I don't
tried Wuthering Waves.
Well, between the two, because they both kind of have similar voice chat, but not video, that's fine. Yeah, we could probably schedule something. Zenless and Wuthering Waves have kind of sort of similar combat. People compare them, even as whole games. It's not like comparing apples and oranges, but it's not apples to apples either. I compare them like saying they're apples and pears. They're kind of in the same family of things, but they're different enough that when you bite into them, you definitely know you're eating something different, right?
Yeah.
God, I enjoy WoWo when it works for me, to a degree. I don't think it's as good of a game as Zenless Zone Zero for many reasons. I think people really harp in like, oh, the combat in Wuthering Waves is so much more complex than Zenless Zone Zero, which is not true. I think for those type of games, especially being a Devil May Cry player, which is like one of the grandpappy of this genre of combat, they're both baby games that like anybody can beat anything in with enough leveling and practice put into it. They're not requiring like ultra reaction time or anything like that. I just find WoW boring at times. Like it just doesn't give me enough to do, right? And especially for something like you, that you're not particularly into that type of combat system, right? It's like you'll play Bayonetta, which isn't the same thing, but it's not necessarily your cup of tea. There's just not enough to do, right? Like I'll go through. I'll do the puzzles. It's fun to do the random puzzles running around the world, but they don't give me enough to want to run around the world. I don't care for like hunting down echoes as my character's equipment and stuff. It's boring to me. It's like a lame way of hunting Pokemon. And everybody's like, oh, you could hunt for shinies. I don't like shining hunting in Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
So like after I've done the story, it's like I'll let it sit. I don't care. I don't care about the side modes in this one. The Tower of Adversity, which is like the Spiral Abyss in Genshin, the rotating challenge mode, has like an energy system, so you can't even use the same team throughout it. Or even if I want to change teams, I can't actually think about which team I'm going to use against which wave. That person already used all its energy, and it's a turnoff to me. And I don't like the roguelike, because the roguelike is centered around empowering a single character, and that character has like unique buffs in it, but they wouldn't even let me use the character I pulled off the banner, like the 5-star right away because they didn't have that one set up. It's like, I intentionally pulled for Encore. I wanted Encore because she seemed like a very fun character, both personality and gameplay. But you don't have her set up, so that turned me off too. And it's like, I don't know. In games like ZZZ, I like the side mode. So after I'm done with the story, there's still plenty for me to do. And it's kind of a fun arcadey party game. So I don't have to worry about like wanting to explore the world. I could just go straight to the content I want to do. I enjoy it more. I get why some people don't, but like, even if there's somebody like you who doesn't particularly like that type of combat as much as other games like a turn-based RPG, it's like, well, you're not in the combat all the time. The combat isn't too punishing. Like, you can get really deep into it, but also for like 90% of the content, you can probably just button mash through it too and be perfectly fine. But there's like tons of other things, like the TV system and the puzzles are fun to do. And there's a lot of story, and there's even an arcade where it's only got 2 games, but it's got a single player and a online multiplayer version of the game too. So you could just spend time in the arcade, and it's like, this game just gives me more to do. I like it more than WoW because of that.
I think I like Ever Crisis because it's got quite a bit to do, but it's not overwhelming. Yeah, and there's no walking around at all. It's just all like battles and things, but just different types for different reasons. And and it's got you go and you check on your chocobo expeditions, and you go and you check on your what's the flying ship,
the airship,
high wind or whatever. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I believe that's the High Wind. I know his second ship, because the High Wind he named after himself. The second ship that he gets, which shows up in Advent Children, is called the Sharon because he named it after his wife. That one, I believe, is the High Wind.
And they've got enough events that kind of keep you interested in doing different types of battles. Yeah. And I don't mind at all. I like how you can set it to auto, just to sort of complete your daily battles and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's just one of those games where you just watch numbers go up. My only puzzlement, I guess, with this game is that I see people at power levels that I cannot comprehend. And I'm like, how did they get to that level? I don't understand it. There's some hidden mechanic that I'm missing.
I might understand it if I was playing more regularly, because I usually pick up on this stuff pretty easily. But because I don't play it regularly, I think my team's average power level is sitting at like 130 to 140, like somewhere around there. I'm sure like I could easily boost it a lot higher if I kept playing, but like that's just where I've been sitting.
I've been playing a lot, and my max team level is something around 240, 230,
and I would expect so because you play way more than I do.
But I see people out there, you can look at their profiles, and their max level is like 450. I think I saw 500 or something like that. Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, how do you do that? Like, that's with all my characters are level 80, which is the max, with all weapons that are level 120, which is the max, and I'm at 240. How are they double that? I don't understand. What am I missing? There's some hidden thing that they're doing, and I know that as you progress, it's the High Wind expeditions.
There's a lot of stabbers that are inside the High Wind itself. Yeah.
So, but I've been doing those, and it's very slowly. So maybe if I just keep doing that, but it's like it'll raise up by 0.1%.
Yeah, a lot of these people, right? Because you have to understand, especially with these games, and this game particularly is not going to have a power creep problem. It's going to have a time creep problem, right? Especially since you don't have to pull for your characters. And assuming you can max out your over-leveling, the over-boosting for the weapons on a weapon, your number is going to be where it's going to be safe for a long time, and you're just kind of like min-maxing after that. These people have probably been playing since the game came out, right? So that...
But it's been out for less than a year, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we came to it a little late. So they've been able to like make sure they're hitting every single thing the second it's available. So they are in that min-maxing stage of like, oh, there's a new thing that has a couple new power-ups. Let me go knock it out real quick. I'm already where we are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they must have all... The one thing I have been... that's very difficult to get are 5-star materia. So I bet you that they have all 5-star materia.
Yeah, that's going to do it. Stuff like the high wind with the trickle is a high wind is purely time, right? Because you have to wait for the expeditions. You have to get to a certain power level to fight the boss to be able to get to the next stage, which is also going to be time based.
Well, to a degree, but the high wind level ups are more. So this is where what I found is that it actually does pay to do the horizontal leveling, because when you get like a certain number of level 50 weapons for each character, it'll boost a stat for everyone.
Yes, yeah.
And then if you get a certain number of 70s, it'll boost a stat for everyone.
And that's why I'm saying it's kind of like a time creep, because of those people who've been playing since launch, or some of them might have been pre-launch, some of them might have been... this server didn't have a separate test server. The people who tested it were just already in the server, which I think is a really dumb way to play to do a game like this. So some of these people have been able to level all this stuff the entire time, right? So a lot of this is just time gated, and it's like as opposed to Star Rail, where you're going to be slogging behind people for a little while, but as long as you sit there and you just play through the story, eventually, by the time you're done with the story, you're going to be at the player level that you can start catching up. And there'll be a little bit of time based, but you can have a viable team that is as strong as they're going to be. And then you can worry about the horizontal. Yeah. This one, they kind of want, I guess, diagonal investment where you're kind of going back and forth between vertical and horizontal, because it's just a matter of you are 3 months behind other people who are playing, and you have to wait for the physical time of that 3 months. So you'll always be 3 months behind until they're basically sitting at a cap and you're approaching that cap.
Yeah. But you can tell how long you can tell by their player level. Yeah. Because the player level is strictly based on how much stamina you've used. Yeah. It's literally just if you use 1 stamina, you get 10 more experience for your player level.
Yeah, it's a 1 to 10 ratio. Yeah.
Yeah. So my player level's like, I think I'm up to 78 or something like that, and I see people with like 120. So it's like, they've been playing it for nearly twice as long. So
Fischoso actually brought up that Shift Up, which is a creator of a gacha game that I was playing right before we started the show, went public. Probably between the fact that Nikkei has been doing even better. I mean, there's a summer event going on, and they always do good during the summer events. But then also their other game, Stellar Blade, while still limited by the PlayStation, did a lot better than most people thought it was going to do. They thought a lot of the complaints and stuff were going to hurt its sales, and it's like, no, it's about right in the range that a lot of these better PlayStation 5 games have been.
Yeah. I mean, do you think people were thinking complaints of a little bit of censorship, or the complaints that it's too sexy?
I think it was between the combination of both, where a lot of people were just hyperbolically complaining on both ends. Like, nobody was happy with like a middle ground. But it turns out most of the people buying the game aren't on the internet and complaining. All right, and a lot of people just do want a sexy action adventure game. Most of them don't even know about the censorship because they haven't been following that deep into the what's it called, the online drama where people have been recording each of the updates. They probably just saw a trailer and that was it. And even if they saw the trailer and the trailer had a slightly different outfit than the in-game, they're not going to memorize what it looked like in the trailer. Like, yeah, no, that's the same outfit, isn't it? It looks the same-ish. And yeah, most people are normies. Who would have thought? It's kind of the definition of being a normie. You're an average person, right? So it did fine. Could have done better if more people owned PlayStation 5s, but it did right in the expectation range of PlayStation 5 games. I think, what was it? In that like 3.5 million or to 5 million range that those games, I don't remember the exact, but I think it was somewhere in that range that you can expect from like top-selling PlayStation 5 games.
How many units sold?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was just looking at this IPO where they just raised 320 million. Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
What is my Discord ID? It should be my normal username at most places, which is I'm a Demetal. Since we don't have to deal with those
it's
pesky little
in the chat.
Well, it's in the chat.
Scroll up.
Yeah. If you just scroll up, I forgot I chatted from Discord earlier. Yeah. Because we don't have to deal with those pesky numbers anymore ever since they give people actual usernames instead of
Here, I'll chat in the Discord.
But yeah, Shift Up went public. Fizchozo also had another thing where he says, I don't play mobile games. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't play them. I just prefer to own my games. Which, for the most part, I agree. For like most games in general, I prefer physical copies if I can. If it's not too convenient, I will get a digital copy. I've got plenty of space on like my Switch. And I prefer games that I don't have to be connected to the internet to play. Live service games are kind of different, though. I had an argument with somebody versus, like, Diablo, and why I did not want to play Diablo because you had to always be online. It's like, but Diablo's always had a live service. It's like, yes, but with 2, you didn't have to interact with the live service if you didn't want to. And as a dungeon crawling experience, I actually kind of preferred Diablo 2 offline than I did online. And I even told them, if Immortal didn't suck, right? If they didn't have like these horrible raids, and like if it was a good kind of like gotcha Diablo, I actually probably would have preferred to play Immortal always online than Diablo 4, because it is more based around the live service than 4 is. 4 is like half included. It's got like some of those MMO features, but it's like you can disconnect from the live service in effect. Like you could play by yourself, but you still have to be connected to the live service to do that. And that kind of just like bothered me to some degree. I don't like half-assing.
Well, I mean, the thing is, with gacha games, it's like they're free, and you know, I couldn't even imagine playing a game.
That was my other problem with 4,
that much.
Right, I had to buy 4 to then engage with the live service. Yeah.
I mean, but to be able to play a free game, you don't have to spend a dime, and it's still got amazing graphics and depth of gameplay, and they give you enough stuff usually that you don't have to spend any money. You're not going to be like, number 1 or anything, top of the heap like the whales, but I do buy the season passes with Ever Crisis, but I don't have to. I mean, I just do it just to have a few extra
stuff, help support a game that you play. Like personally, I find spending money on free-to-play games almost like an ethical or moral situation, because like I could play these games completely free-to-play. Sometimes would it mean I might miss a character or a costume or something that I want, just because like I ran out of time and luck wasn't on my side? Sure, that's possible. But in games where it's like I'm playing the game, but it's pissing me off more than I'm enjoying it to some degree, but like just enough that I'm not quitting the game. It's like it's just tilting. I'm not gonna give them money, right? Because you're kind of voting with your dollar to some degree, right? But if like I'm really enjoying a game, like I do with a lot of the Hoyoverse games, I kind of want to give them money because I want to support the thing that I'm enjoying.
Yeah. Well, like when I was playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, I spent a little money here and there, number 1 to sort of support the developers, although it's, Nintendo, they don't need that. But at the same time, I was having a lot of fun, and it gave me more of the stuff to have more fun with it. So it's just like, I'll throw in $5
It's not like Hoyo needs it either. I mean, they've got plenty of whales that keep it afloat for all of us.
Yeah, I was, I only put money in where I'm actually enjoying the game, like a lot. Like I'll put, if I find myself putting like a couple hundred hours in, like I have with Ever Crisis, then sure, I'll probably get the season passes because I'm having so much fun with it.
Well, it's like there's even a lot of people that make it a free-to-play challenge, especially for some of these easier games. It can add an extra challenge to stay free-to-play, which is why a lot of people ask for skins, because if you do want to support the game and you have maybe a skin that doesn't change the stats. I know costumes in Ever Crisis are more than just a skin on your character. But for a lot of games, like say Genshin, if there's a skin, it does literally nothing to your character other than look different. Then you can still have your free-to-play challenge support the game without actually being like, well, I broke my free-to-play because I've got more stats than I would have if I didn't buy the skin, right? People literally ask for that reason. They want to support the game, but some people don't want to break their challenge. I personally find strictly free-to-play stupid in like specifically the Hoyo games because I don't think they're that difficult that you're getting that much of a challenge from free to play, or at least Star Rail was for a while because it's an RPG and you can't just you can't just dodge to make up for things. You're going to get hit by some damage, so they can't make it stupidly hard. But before you have everything, there is that challenge of like you're going to get hit by something. You're going to get hit by something no matter what, right? So everything's kind of balanced around that idea. After a while, you lose your free-to-play challenge anyway. After you've played a game for like a year, it doesn't matter because your account is just so built that there's almost no difference between you and a low spender depending on what your luck was. So like I never gave a shit about that anyway. It's like whatever, I'm just going to be a low spender. You know, like
Well, I like the fact that especially with gacha games that are well made. It gives people the opportunity to play these games for free if they can't afford a $60 game. I mean, it gives them almost $60 quality.
Well, that's why, like, I don't call them free-to-play games most of the time when I'm talking to people. Like, I am right here on the show because it's the term most people know. I use a term that you often see in other forms of media, where the shorthand for it is PWIW, but that's almost more of a mouthful to say than what it actually means. It's pay what you want, right? That's basically what these games are. They're pay what you want. You can choose your level of support, and I mean, go to town on it.
Yeah, like when Genshin first came out, because I know it wasn't the first gacha game out there, but it was just kind of like I didn't know what the deal was, and it was just surprisingly good quality for a free or PWIW game. It's just like, oh wow, this is like really quite good for that anyone that has a device that can play it can play
Genshin
if they want for free.
Definitely put like gacha games on the map. Like they've been around for a long time. I've been playing them for at least a decade now. Like people don't even realize how far back these things go. I want to say maybe even a little bit more. Probably around 2012 was probably the first gacha game that I played. The first gacha mechanic.
Animal Crossing Pocket Camp was basically a gacha game.
It was 100% a gacha game. But like I could go back to I'm trying to remember which one was first. It was either Final Fantasy Record Keeper, which is a pretty old game. I had to play something before that. League of Angels, the first one, was pretty old. That's how a lot of people got into gacha games, because you could play League of Angels in your browser through Facebook, and people use their Facebook login. Which I often do this in games that I can run it, downloaded their client, and I had it in client and in browser at the same time, playing two different accounts on Facebook and through the computer app. And I was co-oping with myself because League of Angels is such a slow-paced game. It's a turn-based RPG that you could just play it by yourself if you had multiple accounts. And then they had two, and Fire Raiders, which one of the older servers, I actually had like the second biggest guild on the Fire Raiders for a while. But like I've been playing these type of games for a really long time. I'd have to go back. I stupidly didn't save the list, but I went through and listed like all the gacha games that I've played, and I think I've played like 50 at this point over the course of like the last decade.
I've totally forgotten about Puzzle and Dragons.
Yeah,
that's one I was really obsessed with for a while. I don't think I ever spent a dime on it, but I guess you could. I don't even know if I guess you must have been able to spend money on it, but I never had any reason to.
I think every Nintendo mobile game has been a gacha game, right? You've got Pocket Camp, you've got the Mario Kart Tour. You've got Dragalia Lost, which I was really enjoying that one until power creep became a problem in it. And that was really just like the last year and a half of it was a power creep issue. So most of Dragalia Lost was fun. You had... no, there was one that wasn't a gacha game. Mario Run. That was just a regular mobile game, pay as you go. You could like pay $10 to unlock a whole world. You could buy a level at a time or whatever. Yeah. But then you also had like Dr. Mario World or whatever it was called, which was a gacha game. You got the different characters. Almost every Square mobile game has been a gacha game. Like, I'm trying to think too. I've played so many. I played a King of Fighters gacha game, King of Fighters All-Star, which was really fun. It actually played like a fighting game. Very underrated. But God, there's just so many.
Yeah. Apparently, the first gacha game that Google knows about is called Dragon Collection from 2010.
Never played that one. The first gacha mechanic, though, probably predates that. The first game to ever have a gacha mechanic that we know of is Maple Story, and Maple Story had a box, like a Mario style box that you hit. Right, it was a loot box, and it basically would shuffle and you'd hit it, and for like, I can't remember, it was like for $3 or something, with some very low amount, it might have even been $1, you could get literally any item in the game. The problem is, like, those super legendary items you want have such a low rate that if you could get lucky and get it, but the amount of time and money that you spent on it, you'd probably just be better off going and actually getting the item the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to remember. There's another game, Nintendo mobile game that's, I think, gacha.
Fire Emblem Heroes is a gacha as well.
That's it. That's what I was trying to
It's one of the worst gacha games I've ever played rate-wise. And it's such a watered-down version of Fire Emblem, it's not worth it. And it suffers from severe power creep.
Yeah, I played the first chapter of it or whatever, and I just got sick.
I think probably the only gacha game that I've played whose rates are worse than that, and I only touched it for a short time, I dropped it like immediately, it was Fate Grand Order. Which has no pity in it either. I do not recommend anybody play Fate Grand Order unless they're just hyper fans of the Fate franchise.
Yeah. Oh, apparently I cleared Chapter 2 in Fire Emblem Heroes, according to my Nintendo mission log here.
I cleared quite a bit of it. Regrettably.
Oh my gosh, there's so... Holy crap, jeez. Just goes on and on. Apparently there are 8 books with up to like 12 chapters each.
That game has made more money than the entirety of the Fire Emblem franchise combined.
I bet.
By like 2 orders of magnitude, I think.
Insane.
Which is awful, honestly.
I've got 1,200 platinum points. I should redeem them from Nintendo before they expire.
Actually, I think I had news related to one of those like waifu collector games. Good Night Spoon's Discord has become so confusing in the last 4 years. Yeah, even if you've been on it for a lot of people, it's still confusing. Like if you've been getting the updates one by one. Ever since they went corpo, they've been thankfully adding a lot of features, but it comes with that corpo complication part, and also it doesn't function as well as it did when a tighter team was just working on everything and it had less features. So problems haven't been as frequent in maybe like the last few months, but I remember late last year we were running into a lot of issues with Discord as they were like changing codecs and stuff. Like sometimes you couldn't even connect. We had to like reset the lobby and stuff.
Yeah, and I still to this day have weird issues like if I don't plug my microphone into the correct USB slot, my headphones don't work. It's like only in Discord. Like, what is going on there? That is so strange. Yeah. Some
Okay.
weird stuff.
I'm assuming the one friend request I have is Goodnight Spoon, so I'm accepting it.
No, I didn't get a friend.
There we go.
Oh.
Trying to remember what we were talking about before I got derailed. Oh, I did have something kind of revolving gacha and waifu collection games as a topic pulled up, and it is for the game Snowbreak Containment Zone, which is not one I play. I don't know if I will try it. I actually don't even know if it's out or if I've seen gameplay of it, so it could be in beta form. It could be out. I could not tell you, but it is playable to at least some people. Snowbreak Containment Zone.
Oh, Snowbreak.
Yeah, so it's
like
like Snowbreak
snowflake.
is like the name,
Yeah.
: subtitle, Containment Zone. It's a sci-fi RPG shooter, right? It's got a lot of like RPG elements to it.
It says it's a 3D waifu sci-fi RPG shooter.
Yes, yes. And the devs behind it are actually doubling down. Well, actually, no, tripling down on its fan service after complaints and everything, because it is paying off a lot. Of course it is. Who wouldn't think it would? Yeah, so they're tripling down despite the in spite of the criticism from people, quote unquote, who are not players, which is what you should do as a dev company.
These characters are just pretty much naked.
Yeah.
They have pasties. They have pasties on their nipples, but that's
quite
about
a few
it.
of them. There's some that are dressed in scantily clad outfits. Some of them that are wearing like short dresses and stuff. They are covered, but yes, they do have many that are barely covered up the important parts at all.
Sorry, the sound keeps coming on.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So there's a few that are closed.
It is fully out. It recently climbed to slot number 2 in the Chinese App Store, and is in the top spot right now in Steam for Japan, because you can actually get this game on Steam itself and use your Steam login for it. I don't know. Maybe
official
I'll give it a
release
try.
is July 20th.
Yeah, if it's available, it's just an open beta, but it is available for download, I guess, or pre-register or whatever. But you can get it. People are already adding it to their accounts on Steam, which puts it at number 1 in the Japanese market for Steam at the moment.
Wow.
And it's number 2 in the Chinese App Store.
Is it coming out on like iOS?
I have no clue. I would assume so.
Okay. I mean, it says there's a button that says play game. Wait a minute. It says release date December 24th, 2023.
Yeah, like I said, I believe it's been in beta access. I just didn't know if it was closed or open. It seems effectively available for people to play, which is part of the hype around it. But yeah, and they're saying it hasn't so much dialed up the fan service. Aside from them being completely naked, I don't know how you could from where it already was. I mean, I guess you could put them in more risque scenes and poses, right? But it's that they're just marching forward with what they are. They're not going to pull back at all. They're tripling down on it.
Is this a Korean company?
I don't know. Let me look on what Snowbreak is.
Amazing Season Games.
Yeah. I saw a Japanese interview, so it might be a Japanese company. The way season spell makes me think it's Korean. Chinese. Yes, the very first thing that popped up before I even looked, I saw Chinese characters. Though I guess if you're not used to the two languages, it's very easy to confuse Chinese and Japanese for each other, since a lot of their characters come from China.
Although they do have a studio in Silicon Valley.
Oh, nice.
Apparently. But mostly Beijing, Shanghai. Several. They basically have several studios. Interesting. Oh, wait, are they a publisher? They must be the publisher.
I have no clue. This is the first time I'm really learning about them. Like I said, I don't even play this game. I might check it out. I don't know how much I'll go into it, just because I mean, it's an RPG, but the gameplay doesn't look that riveting. It's just the characters do. But I usually give these games a try. I haven't gotten around to it.
RPG? What is an RPG shooter? Is that even...
Definitely leveling. I've looked up images because I was looking up this game again earlier, and I saw full battles on it, right? Like images of them in the battle scene. Boss has health bar and everything. I don't know. It's really hard to make out from just looking at images. I'd have to go and watch full gameplay. But like RPG shooter is a very loose term, right? Because it could be anywhere from like XCOM or a turn-based game that involves guns. It could be like how Nikke is a cover fire game, to like Borderlands, which is a first-person shooter. But all of these have like leveling and stats and stuff like that. So I would have to definitely look more into it.
It looks kind of like what's that Blizzard? What's that Blizzard game?
Overwatch.
Overwatch. Yeah, it looks like Overwatch. But single player, I don't know. It just looks like a shooter.
Yeah.
For some reason, I guess because of the waifus, it kind of just reminds me of Overwatch.
Yeah, I wish Overwatch had more waifus. That probably would have helped more. I mean, the first one had enough, I guess, but like 2 really dropped the ball on everything in that game. And I think sexier waifus probably could have kept them afloat despite their other horrible decisions with that game. I never had interest in it.
I just remember playing with, who was it? It was what was her name? Not Starfire, but that girl who was into Starfire.
Pope Fire?
Pope Fire. No. Is it Pope Fire? Yeah.
Yeah.
She played one of the waifu characters. Yeah. It's a shooter leveling. And it's now in my Steam library. I'll try it.
I mean, I think another part too is at least the first one was inexpensive, right? Like you could get into it, I think as low as $20, which is another reason why so many people jumped into Overwatch. Though, to be honest, Overwatch, I want to say it should have been a free-to-play game, but I understand why they did $20. They did solve a lot of the botting issue by making you have to pay that small minimum price from it. They were going to try, they wanted to make Overwatch 2 free to play because they thought they'd get more players in there. But their way of solving that was going to be you have to sign up with a phone number. And that also stopped a lot of people from wanting to play the game. You're like, no. If you already own the first one, though, we could confirm you're not a bot. So you don't have to sign up with a phone number if you have Overwatch 1. And I don't know, it's all kinds of issues. They also promised they were going to have like a single player mode, and then they completely dropped the single player mode, and that was their excuse on why there wasn't as much work put into the multiplayer mode. But then like when they canceled the single player, like then what's your excuse for the multiplayer mode now? And everything about it, it was just normal modern Blizzard stuff.
Yeah. What is this? Oh, there was a Final Fantasy XIV expansion a couple days ago?
Yeah, Dawn Trail came out. We talked about it a while ago, like probably late last year is when we probably first talked about Dawn Trail, just because like we got more of the announcements on what was coming up. The thing is, Endwalker was so bad. So bad. Compared to like the previous parts of the game, that I'm just not even interested in Dawn Trail. I've been keeping up with the news and stuff, but they've done nothing with Dawn Trail to actually sell me on wanting to play the game. Especially compared to, like, I'm playing these gacha games, right? We were talking about earlier, at least a free-to-play game. To play Dawn Trail, not only would I have to spend, I think, what, $30 or whatever the price is, $20 to $30 to get the new expansion. But then on top of that, I'd have to spend I think I only spend $15, but $15 a month to play the game. So I have to buy the expansion, then I have to pay monthly. While, like, I don't know, if I want a continuously updated open world adventure game that is barely an MMO. I'm gonna be honest with that, with 14. It's barely an MMO. You can run around, you do see other people running around in the world. There are fates and stuff, but, like, aside from socializing and, like, role-playing with people or even just, like, forming a guild or anything, the only aspects of the main game that are MMO are the dungeons and the raids. And even the way they've been doing it, they've been trying to make it more single-player focused, where you can use NPCs to go through the dungeons. So the trials and the raids, which the trials and raids are basically the same thing now, that's the only time you have to interact with another person. And then there's so many solo quests that you have to do in the story that you don't even have a chance of interacting. You're in a party with your friends, and even in the quest, you might have 2 or 3 other allies, but they're all NPCs. You have to disband your party to go and play parts of the game. Tell me how many MMOs make you disband your party just to progress in the story.
That's weird.
Yeah. So it's like a game that's barely an MMO. It's like half an MMO.
Yeah.
I could go play Genshin for free to get that experience, where it's almost the opposite. But if I want to grind, I can invite friends. If I want to do open world stuff, I can go invite friends and we can play. And yes, I have to play it by myself to be able to play the story, but it is primarily a single-player game that just happens to have multiplayer. So at least that game's not lying to me. Right? Yeah. And I can play it for free. That's the most important part. I don't have to pay $15 a month to play Genshin. It's a... You make me pay $15 a month for an expansion I'm not even that excited about. They added in Viper. Cool, whatever. If you're not familiar with that class, it's basically the halfway between fighter and rogue that Zidane was in 9. Zidane here in the States. They added his class to it. We actually have a fighter class that's a fighter. He's got. They even have like the twin-sided sword, right, where you could take him apart and attach him again, as like Zidane does. That's cool. I guess the class sucks. None of the jobs actually feel like you're playing jobs. They feel like you're playing a role, except for the mages. The mages are like the only thing where it actually feels like you're slightly playing something different than the other people in your role. And it's like, I'd rather play 11, honestly. If I'm going to play an MMO, 11 feels like I'm actually playing Final Fantasy. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a WoW clone. You can do everything in the story with party members. There's some solo quests, but they're like your job specific quests for like advancing like, your job or earning a job. Everything else, though, you could just play with your friends, no matter what. If you link up with people, you do not have to disband your party to go and play a quest. As long as one person in the quest, like the party leader, you can promote them to leader, has the quest. Everybody can do it, so you don't have to go and pick it back up again if you've already done it before. You can help your friends. I don't know. People hate on 11. I think as an MMO, it's a better game than 14.
Well, speaking of games that are not as good as their older counterparts. How's that for a smooth transition? WoW Classic Season of Discovery is getting a lot of hate lately. As they're...
Does it still have the botting problem?
I think today... I don't know. What's the botting problem? I don't know.
Yeah, there is like a severe botting problem in Classic, Hardcore, and Season of Discovery.
Oh, probably, but that's not the problem. The problem I have, the problem is, they're up to season 4. I think released today-ish or time this week, and they've fallen back into their old habit of concentrating on the end game and getting everybody the end game quickly as they possibly can. And it completely ruined the whole idea of Classic, because the reason I liked Season of Discovery Season 1 and 2 and even 3, but to a lesser extent it's gotten worse and worse, is because it was still Classic. You could enjoy yourself, slowly leveling. Leveling was the game.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about the game. And now, like, they're coming out with like new end game dungeons that you can only do if you're top level. They're, speed up, giving you more experience and more gold so that you can get to the top level as quickly as you can. And it's, unfortunately, I think the players, you're just never going to get the same experience that you got originally, because unfortunately, even the players are doing this. They're min-maxing.
Yeah, the culture.
They're not going to let you in a raid.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to get in a raid unless you're max leveled and have the max gear and all this stuff. And they practically do interviews before they'll let you in a raid. And it's like, why don't we just play the game for fun? It's like, no.
Yeah.
We have to win it.
Well, that's why I like 11, right? The culture of Final Fantasy 11 really just has not changed, right? And the only place where you're really going to find that culture is if you find certain guilds in Classic, you'll find people playing that. But you'll mostly find it in the illicit private servers, like playing like Turtle WoW or something like that, because that's the reason why people go to that game, right? It was before Classic and hardcore and stuff was actually made. So that's where you find it. And that's mostly in 11. You can find that exact same mentality on the live server, on the actual retail version, because it has just has the same player base it's always had. You hardly ever get new people jumping into 11. And most of the experience until you get to the max level. So it's mostly as you're inside the DLCs and stuff. And to some degree, you still get that experience. It's just instead of leveling, it's the merits and the horizontal growth that you get at max level is leveling. Like that is most of the game is leveling. There's story stuff, there's quests to do, there's dungeons, but you're doing that stuff to continue leveling, and that is like the entire culture of the private servers that people have for 11 as well. So much so that a lot of people have their servers restricted. They don't have it past level 75 and like maybe the first expansion or so. Because they just want that original experience that the game gave.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to realize that this whole seasonal thing, especially since
that's what's pushing it. So people can get to the current season.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it's not even going to be a permanent server. Like eventually they're gonna shut it down. So it's like, okay, well then I'm not even sure why I'm playing, because I'm not going to, like, I can go into retail WoW and my characters that I created 15 fucking years ago are still there.
Yeah.
In retail. I'm like, wow, I started that character back in, well, wait, how old is it? 20, 25 years? How old is, basically since vanilla.
I don't have that option because I don't have access to the same email and account that I had back then. But I do have the same Blizzard account from when I made my new one back in like 2010 or 11. So I at least have something that's over a decade old sitting in there if I wanted to re-up on that one.
Yeah.
Accept the invite. I will later.
Which is cool.
I'm not accepting like a server invite or anything while I'm on a show.
But yeah, I'm a little disillusioned. I might quit. Wow, I'll try season 4 a little bit and see how it is. I liked the idea of the runes because they give you all these extra powers that your class doesn't normally have. But
see, I don't know why they would ever have to what's it called? Kill the server. I think they're not thinking about it right, because I can look at other MMOs that do the seasonal thing, right? Or even one of their other games, Diablo. If you are playing in the live service, you can have a seasonal character in Diablo. Right, for the current season that's going on. Path of Exile does seasonal characters. Black Desert Online does seasonal characters. I don't know why they just can't have a server where, sure, you can have the fun part where you're doing the increments for the first time. But what they should do instead is they should just make a version of classic WoW, like vanilla, add the runes, and then just have a long season. Like, expect, like, you have a year to get to the end point or whatever, or maybe half a year, whatever, however long they think it'll take people to do the leveling. And during that time, the people who work on the server, they'll do some bug fixes and balance changes if necessary for the season, but they're actually working on what changes they will do to the dungeons that already exist for the next season. And everyone starts at level 0 in the next season. And it could just be a permanent server that rotates the seasons like all these other fucking games do.
Yeah. Well, what I really liked about the initial, like the first season of Season of Discovery, was that by necessity, people were doing the lower level dungeons. And so, you know, the raid, you know, whatever it was called, that one dungeon that was like, you know, perfect for level 20.
Yeah.
After a while, even in the, like the classic servers, nobody's doing it because it's level 20. They've moved on.
Yeah.
But in Season of Discovery, that was as high as you could go. I think maybe the max was 25 at first, or maybe it was 20. I don't remember. It was really low.
Well, I think like even restarting every season too, because then you get to have that fun of leveling a character every single season, will also solve that problem because everyone is starting fresh every season. And if you come into a season too late, like, oh man, it's only 6 months and I started 3 months in, you might have a hard time, but you'll probably also still run into some people who started too late, right? But you could be like, okay, it's 3 months in. I'll just wait till next season, and I'll just start at you know, the beginning with everybody. You're not going to have to wait too long to get to enjoy things if that's the case.
That would be cool. Yeah. And if they basically every time they restart, if they added more content in the early levels, that would be great. That'd be awesome. It'd be a different.
I think they should even give you an option where you could keep the same pre-built character. It's just that character starts at level 0, and they'll even let you respec the class as long as it's the same race. I think could be the option, since you have to start at 0 anyway. But you get like a title or something like from the previous season to show that you went through it, or like they could give you a cape that doesn't do anything. It's just some type of aesthetic that you can glamour over your previous gear or whatever.
Yeah. Like I almost think that you should be able to keep something that does something, but I guess
or they can give you a mount, right?
You want everyone to,
right? Like you could say like it doesn't help you at the beginning.
They don't give it to you.
No, I'm saying like from the previous.
Oh,
if you were doing the
keep your previous one.
Yeah, if you were doing that, like if you had the reset,
that'd be cool.
You could wait until the point where they expect you to unlock your first mount. But it could be like sitting there waiting for you and like, oh, I unlocked the mount now, so I'm going to, I have this special one from the previous season. I can show off that I'm a veteran player to it. Just something interesting like that.
Yeah. You know? I haven't even been able to afford a mount.
Yeah.
I can't even afford the riding training because it's like everything's so damn expensive in vanilla.
Yeah, but that could be the thing, right? Like, if you have played, you don't, that's the one little benefit you get. You don't have to buy a new mount. You just have to do the riding training. And once that is done, it's like, I've got my mount from the previous season I can show off because I've been playing.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. There's so many ways to make this interesting that you think maybe the devs are even thinking about it. I don't want to think the devs are that incompetent. There's got to be some competent people in there, but it's got to be the production end, like the producers and directors and stuff. Somebody at the top that is like, no, that's not how you can run this. I have to believe that's the case. I know they have a lot of less competent people working there. They've like burned the bridges with their best devs and stuff, and they hire a bunch of people. Yeah. I don't believe everybody's a diversity hire, but it's part of it is just the general culture of Silicon Valley right now, and that's a lot of the people that they're hiring, that there are just a lot of less competent people in their hiring pool.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And I honestly... Yeah. I did not like... I tried playing the Mists of Pandaria remix thing, and it was like, yeah, but it's still... it wasn't the real original Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah.
It still had the newest
it's
retail UI
in Mists. That's what it is.
Yeah, and you're not even playing. Like, you could start a Pandaren character if you wanted to, but it wasn't the same story. It was a remix. I mean, it was kind of vaguely reminiscent of Mists of Pandaria, but not really.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like it.
It's
so
more.
It's
Mists of Pandaria 2, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like Final Fantasy IV, the after years, where you're kind of going through a lot of the same events, but it's like a different story slapped on it, and yeah.
Yeah, you're like in the same area, but I didn't recognize anything. I was like, it all looks different. And then it starts, takes you through the Dragonflight training, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
and I've had like a very mixed opinion on this right now, where I think part of it is a culture thing, where like the culture of gaming in general has changed, but part of it's also the companies. Like it's a cross between both. And I've had the idea that I don't think MMOs are that profitable right now. But part of that idea comes from the fact that we have to look at who's making the MMOs and how they're playing. It's like, well, maybe it's just because they're doing stupid things that are making MMOs less profitable. That could be a big part of it, and I think it is a big part of it. Part of it, too, might be the culture, because people who are interested in MMOs tend to be older people. Younger people aren't that interested. They prefer a cozier experience or a social experience, like one of the two. Like Roblox is really popular, but Roblox technically is an MMO by definition. It is a massive multiplayer online game. But what people do is they go into servers and they have more cozier, isolated experiences in Roblox, or have like a Second Life type experience in that sense.
The problem is the MMOs that are out there have kind of ruined the social experience. I mean, that's the other thing.
A lot of them are trying to make like a single player experience or a small multiplayer experience in an MMO.
Right. Like, I mean, that's almost what Season of Discovery is doing. By giving you these additional abilities, you can do stuff on your own more. Yeah. And so it eliminates the need to do some of the social stuff. And it's kind of like, I remember, so if I don't have to.
11 and like Vanilla WoW, which, I mean, you could get that experience now
kind
by going
forced
into Vanilla. Yeah, you had like, if you were stuck on something, you could either... until you hit that end level where there's no additional grinding that can make a difference, right? You either had to sit there for weeks on end grinding until you over-leveled enough that you could handle the thing by yourself, or you actually had to walk up to people and ask them, or like shout in the world chat, like, "Hey, it's LFP in Final Fantasy 11, LFG." In WoW, looking for group, or L4G sometimes people use variation of it, but you knew what somebody meant if they used either looking for group, and then you would type what you're looking in the group for, and whether it's like for this dungeon or for this mob spawn, or looking for group to level, and then you'll even put like what you're looking for, right? Looking for group, paladin, need, and then you might drop like the roles you need for, and it would just be the single quick sentence, this not even bare bone sentence, and people would start responding to you with like a tell or something, like, "Hey, I'm down for leveling right now. Let me join your group. I'm a warlock. You're a paladin. We could," or some weird combination, like we could party together for leveling, you know.
Well, it's funny when I went on a raid, or I guess it was just a dungeon, with Dillard and one of our friends in the chat room.
I'm trying to remember who plays. I think Dario plays.
Darren?
I think Wagner might play. I think Dario might have dropped out.
Yeah.
I think he was playing it first, but I think Darren Wagner plays. He might be one of the ones that are playing with you.
Yeah, it's Wagner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wagner. Yeah. And I was supposed to be a tank, and he was like, "Oh, do this thing," and I'm like, "I don't have that ability," and he's like, "Yeah, you do. It comes with being a tank." I'm like, "I don't have that ability. I'm telling you."
Yeah.
That was kind of annoying. And then I found out later is because I hadn't completed some sort of quest line that I needed to complete to get that ability.
Especially because like early on, With WoW is
totally
you just level and then you go to your class trainer and you buy the abilities. But then there are like actual class quest lines and stuff that you have to do before you can unlock things. And
Yeah, I was like, I don't I can't remember what it was, some stance or something.
Yeah,
I
miss
didn't have
the
a
class
defensive
trainer.
stance.
Right. In 14 and now in retail, it's all just leveling, right? You do have job quests in 14, and there is technically like a job trainer in that case. But all they do is they give you the quest and you go and you do the quest and you get it. I kind of liked that almost Final Fantasy 1 experience of I want to learn this spell. I have to buy it from this shop. And the class trainer, while they did give you some quests to advance in your class, a lot of it was just I have to pay you money to unlock this new spell or ability.
Yeah, and you really, everything's so damn expensive, you really have to pick and choose what you want because...
You had to specialize very early on.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, I'm going to skip this, and this because it's just too damn expensive and it's not worth it. And, if you play the game long enough, eventually you'll get the money to fill out everything. But
yeah,
when you're first leveling, it's like...
Yeah, exactly. And it's rough. That's why you have to ask for help, too. Like, you might even have two people of the same class working together just because they specialized into different things. But I'm going to paraphrase both of Fizz Chozo's things just so we get what he meant the first time. He thinks generative AI, specifically, is a massive benefit for MMOs. I don't know about massive. I think it could be a unique benefit. I don't think it'll actually ultimately change things. No. It could make things more interesting for people longer. But I also think it can exaggerate the problem we're currently facing, where MMOs are quickly becoming single-player games, because generative AI could make it even easier to not have to interact with other people. Like, you can have fun things where you're just talking to NPCs, and NPCs have, like, a codec built into them. Like, these are the things you should know. This is your personality. This is how you should interact. And then it just generates everything within that parameter, that line of parameter. But there could also be issues with that too, where depending on what they say, they get reports. They have to go in and they have to make the parameters more precise per NPC over time. But then, like, the other way they would use it is for the generative AI to learn how to play the game more, so that you could have like minions or like people you could hire. I remember one of the older MMOs, the first EverQuest, which the world itself was the dungeon. You started in a hub and then you went out into the world. So it really wasn't that open, but you did have like massive landscapes where it's like you would go through this route to the dungeon and then enter it. And that route was technically part of the dungeon because you didn't go down the route until you were leaving town to go to the dungeon. And you'd party up before leaving. A lot of MMOs still work this way. Phantasy Star Online started with a hub. Vindictus started with a hub and you would go to the dungeon. But because of that, you could hire mercenaries to go with you if you did not party up with people. And you could do the whole route in the dungeon entirely with NPCs. I feel like that is where they would take generative AI more. It would give the NPCs you're dealing with the ability to type in chat, so then they could be talking to you and responding to you in the personality. So it'd be like playing with our peers. And they would also learn how to do the dungeons and everything, and it would just accelerate this whole dead internet theory almost. Like you're playing a dead MMO. There are other people playing, but you almost never have to interact with them because you get this feeling that you're interacting with other people.
But then what if an AI decides to interact with an AI and it's just AI parties just going...
Well, they might put a parameter where AIs can't actually hire other AI for... Like, they wouldn't have those player mechanics in them.
Yeah.
But, like, if they're walking around and you have some that are built in the town, you're going to have to start putting markers on it, which you may not want to because it might break the immersion, so you know if it's an AI or not. Like, AI might start interacting with other AI just because they're programmed to interact with the people in the town. And it makes the world feel more alive, but it's like, dude, I really just need to party with people.
Yeah, well, but what if a player decides to use AI to play their character for them, and then that's interacting with
in
the
that
AI
case, like, you have it disconnected where it's client-side AI instead of something that's in the server. I'm talking just like the server itself.
Yeah, that's what I said at first, but then I thought, well, wait a minute.
Because they could put parameters.
You said you wouldn't let it.
on the AI where they can't do it. But it's not to say that you can't have something locally on your computer that is learning to play. Like the amiibos in Smash literally learn based on how players play against it to play Smash. And they get better at it. They'll start kicking your butt after a while, right? There's no reason that you couldn't have something on your end that is running on... You might even have like a separate computer plugged in, right? Like a separate machine that is just running the AI. And then that is... then plugged into your main machine and it's playing the game for you, like while you're at work or anything. And then people are playing with an AI and they don't even know. Yeah, that's the dead internet theory. Yeah. In a nutshell, just applied to MMOs. Weirdly enough that this brought up, Kyle Hill, who, as a creator, I like him. Sometimes he's hit and miss with things, as everybody shows their bias. But overall, I like Kyle Hill. I think he's cool. He put up a dead internet theory video today. Weirdly, I think like... 6 hours before I got up, which I thought it was actually a pretty good one too overall, despite having everybody's hated journalist Taylor Lorenz in it for a brief moment. Though I didn't hate that he used somebody can be awful and still the one thing they say is right? Like you have to take what somebody says at its value and not who said it.
Is that the one that Asmongold reviewed? Because I was watching.
He might have. I didn't watch Asmongold. I'm subscribed to Kyle, so I just. He changed his name, the channel name to his name, but I've been subscribed since it was called Because Science, where it span off of like College Humor or whatever.
Oh. Wait, I know that.
Yeah, it used to be called Because Science, but he changed the channel name to his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've always liked Because Science. But this was like more serious than his recent, because he's even had like an AI, a fake AI called Aria, that's kind of like. Oh God, what was the first one's name?
Wait, there's still a Because Science channel though.
Oh, he might have two channels. And I forget that I'm subscribed to both of them. Because Science is probably the one where Aria. This was a more serious. This was like on his personal channel. It didn't have any of the gimmicks or stuff. It was more like just a video essay of him talking. And I liked the serious tone of it.
Yeah. Is it How AI Killed the Internet?
I think that might be it.
Oh yeah, 8 hours ago. Yeah. No, this wasn't the one, but coincidentally, Asmongold went over a video about the dead internet theory. Who was it by? It was someone else. Oh, there it is. Wait. This was from 5 hours ago. Maybe it was.
Maybe.
No, it's from Aperture Thinking.
Aperture Thinking. That's a nice Portal reference for a name.
Yeah, from 2 weeks ago. So they did a video on it 2 weeks ago. So.
Well, the funniest thing, dead internet theory has been going on for well over a decade now, right? Well, not well over, just over a decade now. I think it goes back to like 2010. But it was kind of like a weird Fed conspiracy theory back then. But due to like AI advancement, it's like, no, I mean, you were probably right. You were just years too early. Especially with how many bots you might interact with on Twitter.
Kyle Hill's the guy who writes backwards on a glass, whatever, on a piece of glass.
He doesn't do that as much anymore, but yeah, he used to do that.
I don't know how he did that. Learned how to write backwards.
I'm pretty good at writing backwards. It's not that hard. It's just something you practice at.
Yeah. But I mean, it's basically that, all the sites are going to be written by computers, and then they're actually going to be read by computers, and there's no human interaction whatsoever, right?
Yeah, or there is humor. There's no human to human interaction is the better part, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like if 90% of the users on the internet, which means we'd have an explosion of users, are bots, and there's already more bot users than people users. It's just not to that degree yet that we can tell. I have to put that caveat, that we can tell. Google probably has better metrics on that than anybody else does. The odds of you interacting with another human will end up being slim to none, right? Like you'll interact with things, but the smaller proportion of humans on the net will pretty much exclusively be interacting with AI, and they won't even know it.
Yeah. There's another Asmongold where he's talking about I guess he's just a React channel now, but there was a video about how somebody got on one of these shooting games, like Call of Duty or something, and he realized that everyone in his team was a bot and everyone on the other team was a bot. He was the only human. That's crazy.
There's a lot of games for people experiencing that too, right? What was it? I think Tarkov had a botting. Tarkov had both a botting and a hacking problem. That game was dead. They're still trying to release it and do all this other stuff about it. The way they handled the modding, the cheating and botting problem in Tarkov has already killed it. Like their population jumped down to like nothing. But there's a lot of games that have just botting problems where you could just end up in an entire lobby and it's nothing but bots.
Someone in WoW actually asked me if I was a bot, because I was just running around killing things just to finish a quest or level. And I was like, no, I'm a real person.
Yeah.
I guess I was acting because I was just going from creature to creature and killing it one at a time.
But Goodnight Spoon says it was once required. I'm assuming being able to write on being able to write backwards at all in the movie.
On glass.
Yeah.
I remember seeing movies and stuff where they would have to draw on like a glass radar screen thing where be one person on one side and he'd be drawing it so the other person could read it.
I think I got good at it because I was really cheeky. And I can read backwards too. Like I don't understand people like, man, I can't read this thing written backwards. Like, okay, well maybe it might take you a little extra time to process because the letters don't look the way you're used to. But you should be able to read something that's written backwards. It's really not, unless you're dyslexic, right? You're already having trouble reading forward. I could see that being an issue for people that have some type of disorder.
Yeah, I mean, I can read it if the letters are in the correct order forwards.
Oh wait,
but if the letters are backwards.
Like
if
you were
just written backwards. Well, no, that's harder.
oh, so me, I could read something that's mirrored perfectly fine, and I used to leave my brothers messages of words written backwards, and they would hold it up to the mirror and they would read it, right? But like, weird. I don't know, I can read mirrored language, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, I could, I guess, just be slower.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it might be a tad bit slower.
Just...
But, like, still read it.
I had to scratch my nose without it looking like I was picking my nose.
Oh, okay. But, yeah. I don't know. I do think AI is probably going to get out of hand. And especially when talking about MMOs and stuff, like, it could be cool. Yeah. It could be cool for games to have generative AI to make the NPCs in the world feel a little more lifelike. I think I prefer that in single-player games.
Yeah. Well, I wish you could
do, I don't want an excuse to not talk to people, right? Because the social aspect of MMO is a big thing. If I could just talk to this NPC and roleplay with it and just stay in character, like, oh yeah, I talk to this baker every day, just because like I've become friends with this baker. Like, I don't think that's good for the social aspect of an MMO. I want them to be lame, so that if I want a good conversation, I have to go and talk to another character, like another player.
I think it could be good for single player games. I mean, it can make single player games more interesting because.
And you're not under the delusion. You know you're the only person in the game. It's a single player game.
Yeah. I mean, if NPC interactions weren't necessarily scripted, if they were actually generated by your interactions, that would be cool. I wish that Ever Crisis, so if you couldn't find someone to co-op with, would
give you
join
bots.
in some computer players. Give you bot players. Something. It's ridiculous.
Oh, like a point I was trying to say before with War of the Visions, because I mentioned that I played so many, and I didn't even actually get to the point at all. I should go back and timestamp like when the point started, when I actually got to the point. The matchmaking was still kind of but for longer into the series, you could find people to play. Like even at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock in the morning, I could find 1 or 2 people to play. Now, you may not find it for the exact thing you want. That's the issue, right? Like you might be patiently waiting there for an hour, waiting on people to join in because they finished whatever they were doing and they couldn't find something. So like, I'm just gonna quick queue with somebody, right? So that's the issue, is like somebody has to start a mission and then other people can quick queue to join them, and you'll find some people. So at that time of night, I would only quick match. That'd be it. I would just like whatever's available. This game I don't even think has quick match, does it?
Which Ever Crisis?
I don't think it has a quick match, does it? Where quick match means you indiscriminately don't care what you're doing. It just puts you into a lobby.
No, I mean, you have to choose something.
Yeah. So that was like a benefit that War of the Visions had, is it had a quick match button. So, or like a lobby button. And if you hit it, it would show up like 5 things. You're like, well, I don't want to run that dungeon, but they're looking for a player. I'll go run that one with them.
Yeah, that would be awesome if they had that, because then you could see, because like, here's the problem. There, in the sort of regular weekly co-op thing, there's like, there'll be like 40 different matches that you can choose from. And if you don't happen to choose a match where at least 2 other people are waiting for someone, you're never going to have a match. But
And
if
you
I
have to
could
match by
see
level,
all 40,
right? Yeah, right. You have to match by level. So if you try to match for
that's what I mean.
stage 1, you're not going to match with people who are matching for stage 2. Yeah, right. So
right. That's what I'm saying. There's 40, because there'll be like 10 stages for 4 different.
Well, I'm just trying to paint a picture for people who haven't played it. It's like, it's not just like the type of dungeon. There's a difficulty for each dungeon. That's what I mean by match by level.
Exactly. Yeah. So there'll be like 4 different dungeons. Each one has 10 different levels. And I have no idea which one anyone's playing until I click it and find out that nobody's playing it.
There should be a lobby
But if
list.
I could see exactly, that would
and
be
you're
fantastic.
like, well, somebody is doing the current event, which is why it's usually easier to find an event.
Yeah.
A lot of people will end up doing
I don't think.
the highest difficulty that they would be able to solo if the game let them. So it won't be like what their actual power is. Sometimes like these people who are 400 or 500 will be doing something that's like half their power level, because then they know if they get queued up with people who aren't built as well, that it's still going to be handled anyway. Like usually you're safe to going halfway through the list and you could probably find some people, or the very first one. It's like those 2 options. But still, like you're still fishing within the current
the
one.
thing is,
Yeah.
There's benefits to doing all of them, because you actually get
First time unlock.
Plus you get like a prize for doing like half of them or all of them or something like that. Whereas if you just do the hardest one over and over, it doesn't give you that. But so co-op content. Yeah, just join co-op, and then you have to pick one of the like 40 different iterations, and it's like I just tell me which one to pick.
It'd be like
I'll take anyone.
You know how at conventions, like especially the more social-based conventions, the ones that have you doing things, it's not just like a commerce con, right? And they'll have like different rooms, and some conventions will have like a room with a bunch of people playing tabletop games in it, right? And you can see all the tables. You can see how full the tables are. You can even kind of see what tabletop game that those people are playing. And you can have a sit-down game with people like, oh, you're playing Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition? I'd love to play a game of Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. You've already got like a paladin. You've already got a cleric. I'll come in. I'll play a ranger. We can have a fun time, right? And then this is like, if instead you're in a school building where all of the games are taking place in individual rooms, and you can't even know if a game is set up in that schoolroom until you go in and open the door. And then you might be the first person there waiting on somebody else to make that same decision to open the same door as you.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, there's no one here, and you leave. As soon as you leave, someone else comes in and to look, and it's like, oh, there's no one here because everyone left. And you're like checking every room and like, where is there a game? Someone tell me.
When it should just be a big open floor where you can see the lobbies. Yeah.
That is one thing where I wish they would add that to this particular game, because
that's how
I'm
War of the
sure
Vision works.
Somebody is playing a co-op somewhere, but which one? I don't know which to pick.
War of the Divisions broke its missions down the same way, right? There's the dungeon or the battle that you're doing, and then there's the difficulties for it. And you could go in, and you could be the person who creates the room, but then also there was lobbies, so
other people would see it.
Because you're still kind of creating a room in that game, right? It's just they have to be searching for the same room you created, so you can either make it private or public with your friends, or you could just.
But like, if you make it public, it doesn't appear anywhere.
No,
it doesn't
there's no list.
There's a public lobby.
Yeah.
It just you try it and say, "Is there a lobby here?" and wait for a minute, and then
Which
says,
is the
nope.
dumbest way to program a game, right? Because you're like, how are people going to find each other?
Yeah. Otherwise, if you create a lobby, you have to tell people what the ID is or invite someone.
Yeah.
Even if it's public, you have to somehow tell people what the ID is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I think War of the Divisions even had a filter too for the lobbies, where if you toggled it on, you could filter only people in your friends list. So if you had a wide friends list, let's say you were running like a guild, right, in that game, which I did run a guild. I wasn't a big one. I think I had at its peak 10 people in the guild. There's probably people sitting there because I think I left it to auto approve that I'm just haven't been interacting with because I haven't played that game in a while. I should log in. It's been almost a year probably since I played that game. But if you had people in guild, you had in friends, you could toggle friends only. So if you had a bunch of active friends, you could see if they were in different co-ops and join them if it was open. Yeah. I don't know why this game doesn't have all that stuff that their other games had.
My entire friend list is full. I have it completely full, but I would have to like pick them. It almost feels rude to go and like invite individual people. Yeah. Yeah. And I've never received an invite, so it's not really something that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the culture of the game. Yeah.
I mean, I could try that, but I doubt they'd join me because they're probably doing something else.
Oh,
I can't
that
just
reminds
say
me
anyone in the guild.
Of like playing League of Legends.
It's not really a guild.
No, it's not a guild. No, in War of the Divisions actually had guilds. I think this game would also benefit from some type of guild alliance system. But like I used to play League, and for like the last 5 years, maybe even longer, last 6 years of playing League, I just wanted to play the ARAM system, which is all random, all mid. And they made like a specific game mode. You had no idea what character you were going to play. You were just running it down mid with your team against their team. Kind of became like an actual team fight the entire time instead of like playing the tower defense thing. And that's all I wanted to do. I'd be even fine if people invited me to do that. I even kind of put down for ARAMs in my status because you could put a status. And I would constantly get people in my friends list inviting me to go play ranked with them or any of these other modes. And you don't want to say it's annoying because that's what you should be doing in a game like that. But it gets kind of annoying when you go into a game and you already have an idea of what you want to do in the game. And you're just getting a bunch of invites from people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There should be some happy middle.
Well, it's even like playing League. League used to have the equivalent of a world chat. They used to have chat rooms, and there was a general chat that literally everyone in the server was technically always logged into. You showed up if you typed in it, and you could look for parties in general chat. People could add you and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think is there a world chat? All their other games have a world chat. I don't think this game does. Yeah.
Ever Crisis does not let you chat. I feel like they've taken the whole. We have to be safe and we can't let people talk because they're
way too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, all you can do is when you're in a battle, up until the moment it ends, and then you can't even do this anymore, is it gives you a list of like 10 different reactions that you can say like, nice, and, good job. And
I think everybody's all like that. It's one of my biggest disappointments with the modern Hoyo games because I play a lot of them. I play Honkai Impact 3rd, which is a 7-year-old game at this point. And that one, aside from the fact that a lot of what you're doing feels like you're playing a console game, like when you're in it, like when you actually go to the missions, the combat is very similar to ZZZ. ZZZ borrowed a lot from Honkai Impact 3rd. When you're in your hub, like your menus and stuff, it feels like a phone game. Like, you could tell, even playing on computer, it's got like, oh, here's all your menus you click to go to the different parts of the game. You select the mission you're doing. But it also has alliances. And it has chat rooms and lobbies and stuff. And War of the Visions was like that too. And one of the things I very much dislike about the modern Hoyo games is it's a service game. I want you to have things that live service games have. I want my little club. You can even call them clubs. You don't have to call them alliances or guilds or anything, which kind of adds expectations to them. You can just call them clubs. Let me make chat rooms. Closest thing you can do to that is like you can make a group chat by inviting multiple people to it. I don't know what the limit is, but you can make a group chat in like Star Rail and Genshin and stuff like that. But there's no world chat. There's no general. There's no topic chats or anything like that. And it was like, I want that MMO-like feature in a live service game. That's the reason why I would play a live service game over a single-player offline game. Most of the games that I play that have them, I interact with the general chat, at least periodically. At least, oh my god, the arcade. At least give the arcade its own chat room, so you can invite people and queue up if you want to play. I don't know why that one doesn't have like its own service.
I was looking up one last news story, and noticed that it's probably the biggest Dragon Quest sort of fan account on X. This guy James Solstice. Apparently Asmongold was looking at a tweet of his where he was lamenting AI localizers.
Yeah,
and saying that he wants human localizers. But...
like, I had some news, which we didn't end up getting to. I only had like 2 other stories, and I guess they're really not all that interesting. It was just filler. If we had time left over, I was probably going to rant about the whole localizer thing, which I think I have before on the show. Because I hate both takes. Like, obviously there's people in the industry that have their own personal stakes. They don't want to lose their jobs. But also there's political and social agendas and objectives that people have for why localizing is the way it is and they like it. But also on the other side, there's the whole localizing is bad, period. We just want flat translations of the things. And like, both these takes are fucking stupid. Like, the extremes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not black and white. You know, there's good localizers and there's bad ones. It's just unfortunately the bad ones are the ones that for some reason get the most work and end up.
Well, they also get the most attention,
so many games.
Right? Because you don't really complain. You don't really talk about too much when things are going right.
Yeah.
But I think when a localizer does its job well, one, you don't notice. I mean, most people don't notice anyway because they never check back with the original script or like the Japanese or Chinese or whatever it's being localized from. But it actually enhances the experience from if it was just a flat translation, because there's a lot of context that gets lost in a flat translation, right? Especially because Japanese is a very highly contextual language where things mean different things depending on how you use them and when you use them. And it's a very poetic, metaphorical language, which adds to the high context. So they could say something and you might lose the metaphor in it. So either you want to, instead of translating the metaphor bluntly, because then you'll have no idea what they're saying, right? Like if they said something that, I don't know, it translated to as the snow falls, and it was talking about something that is both delicate and disastrous at the same time, because the snowfalls could end up destroying your roof or whatever. Like some weird thing like that, and they were actually trying to make a point from it. If you just said what it means, you would have no idea what the point is, right? So you either want to retain the point, or you want to find an equally viable metaphor that retains the spirit of the point, so that the person listening can understand it.
Yeah.
But these guys will completely subvert the point and just put whatever the hell they wanted in. That's the other end. It's like, no, you need a talented person who has a grasp of not necessarily the Japanese language so much, because they give you a flat translated script. Like sometimes it's machine translated, but a lot of times they just have somebody who can speak English. But you want somebody who has an understanding of the Japanese culture, so they pick up what the original meant and an understanding of the culture that they're localizing to, and they can get a one-to-one meaning of it. And I don't know, that's just not what we're getting now.
They're inserting their own bizarre culture that it's nobody's culture. It's made up bullshit. And I've always been so impressed when things like, they'll take like lyrics of a Japanese song and they'll turn it into English and still have it rhyme. And it's like,
because there's an artist there working on that, like somebody who is a poet is sitting there. It's like, okay, here's the meaning of the words. So I don't have to make everything translate one-to-one. I just have to make sure that the sentence means the same thing. I can rearrange it in this way. Boom, rhymes. They still rhyme. Yeah,
it's amazing. So we've had amazing translations, and we've always had bad ones. I mean, we've always had,
Ted Woolsey,
whatever,
Final Fantasy.
Congratulations. Yeah. Which I forgot. Congratulations was at the end of the Ghostbusters NES game. But
if this shows us, I haven't played
the
any
bad ones.
Ace Attorney games, but apparently they had good localization most of the time. There's been some things where it's hit and miss. They basically had freedom by Capcom to rename all the characters, but they told them it's because a lot of these characters are Japanese puns, so we would prefer if their names were jokes or puns that work in your language that mean the same thing. There have been some characters whose names are outright changed. There's a character whose name is basically STD in English, right? Like her last name is D-E-E, and her name is like Esty. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But so that one's not one of the better ones, but they do have a lot of fun. Honestly, the Hoyo games I play have good localization. They're even the games are very memey in China, so they're like, hey, you can come up with local memes to go with like the achievements and the quest names and stuff like that. I think 14 is that way too. A lot of their quests are references, like to books, movies, stuff like that. And they have some freedom to change the name of it to work in English, so it's like, oh, this is still a reference. But then you have like, Nintendo is crushed by some of this localization too. Like the one that I retweeted earlier, where it's like Fire Emblem is notorious for having bad localization for like the last 5 games that they've had, including that one scene where these two ninjas have a very deep conversation in Fates in Japanese, and then they're just silently talking to each other because people are like, ha ha ha, ninjas are silent. Wouldn't it be funny if they don't say a word to each other? Fuck the localizers.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just post a link in the chat to they just released footage of the new Dragon Quest III HD 2D. It's in Japanese, but it looks really good. If you're interested in it, I'm going to post that in chat, and it looks great. It looks like Octopath, only the next generation. The graphics look amazing. It just the music is fantastic. So
have you seen the?
Can't wait to get this game. Even though they've eliminated all gender from the game, stupidly.
Yeah. Which this is not the first game that Square's owned that they've done that in. It's just like, it's the first one where the older audience who's interested in it has seen it, so they're pointing it out.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, have you seen the very horrific teaser that Nintendo dropped for, I think it's called Emio?
I don't even know what that is. How do you spell that?
I think it's EMIO. I have it up. Where is it? It's just Emio. Who is Emio? Okay. Is the spooky trailer poses this single question. And this is dude in like an overcoat, like a trench coat, duster, with like a paper bag and a creepy jack-o'-lantern like smile scribbled onto it, just like over his head.
Okay.
And it's very weird. There's no details about it or anything. There is a listing for it on like Nintendo's page. Like there's a page for it, but there's like no details. It's just like an embedded web like a web movie image of it just looping of him on like a staticky almost screen. It's very, very weird.
Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah, it's like 5 cents standing there. Okay.
And I have no idea what Nintendo's cooking with this. It'd be cool to see Nintendo get into more like horror themed stuff. One of my favorite horror franchises is actually I think Nintendo publishes it like directly under them because I haven't seen it anywhere else, and that's the Fatal Frame franchise, which is really fun. Which is the one with you can see ghosts by taking pictures of them, and it's got like that very classic old school Resident Evil, Silent Hill vibe to it. It's just instead of a gun, you've got a camera, and the spirit camera that you can use it can actually fight the ghosts. So you like exercise them through that. So it is literally a weapon. You do shoot them, you just shoot them in a different way. So I've always liked Fatal Frame, and if they could do something like that, or I don't know, maybe this Emio thing might be connected to their horror franchise Fatal Frame in some way. It's just like their unique way of teasing it. We don't know yet, but it would be cool to see them dumping into more horror stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of articles about that. I hadn't even heard about this, but
yeah,
it's a lot of articles that are basically like, we have no idea what this is.
Nobody knows. It's just Nintendo dropping an obscure teaser to make you think. It's like somebody walks into a room and they set an object on the table, and the object is just a roll of quarters duct taped to a banana, and they leave it there and walk out, and you're like, why the fuck did you just do that? I don't know. You've piqued my curiosity in both positive and negative ways at the same time.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess we'll find out eventually.
Hopefully. We also, let's see, in, 6 days.
No.
We will find out more about the Ranma 1/2 thing, which obtains to the other show we run. But the problem is it will be after that, so it won't be until 2 Mondays from now that I'll be able to give more details about the new series. Is there anything else that we need to talk out? Because it's about time. It's past time to go.
No, I just spilled Coke all over my desk. So.
Oh, I guess an update, since I said I was struggling last time. I did get Firefly in Star Rail right before the banner ended, because Jade's banner went up. It was either earlier today, I think. I think it was early, or yesterday. Actually, I think it was yesterday when it went up. And luckily, weirdly enough, I got it just before the banner ended on both accounts. So the account that I actually stream Star Rail in, that you guys see when I do it, has Firefly, which is going to make things a lot easier. Actually, she should destroy that boss that I was stuck on that account before. So after she's built, I'm just going to go in and wreck it.
Cool.
Maybe I'll go back to streaming or something. But yeah.
Well, I just saw some.
What'd you see?
I just saw a brand new set of co-ops just opened in Ever Crisis, so I'm gonna go do them before everybody starts.
Oh yeah, go do that. I won't hold you up much longer. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Be here on Monday for Super Serial Showtime. Be here on Saturday. I actually forgot to schedule it. We are done with Ranma 1/2. Like, we completely finished it. It took long enough. So I do have another anime in mind, but we're going to take a quick reprieve from watching series. The next one's going to be shorter. We're going to watch Tower Jiraga. But this Saturday, we're going to be doing our annual screening of The Legend of Link, because it's about that time of year again from when I showed it last time. So it'll just be a single movie night, very short. Same time, 8 o'clock Central. Come in, enjoy this.
This Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday. We're going to be watching The Legend of Link.
Could we watch The Legend of Neil after that?
I mean, I guess I could put it on. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to do on Saturday. Like, I was actually kind of hoping that it was going to be a shorter night since we've been running it for
No,
like
that's fine.
several hours straight before.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But
Sounds
yeah,
good. What was the
that's what we're doing.
game? There was. You had mentioned before that I should have streamed, or you thought I should stream a game last week.
Oh, I was saying we
can't
should hop
remember
on
what-
together and you should actually play Star Rail, and then we could hang out while you were playing Star Rail. Because you were mentioning that you should go back and try to, because it's actually a turn-based RPG and it's one you would enjoy more. And I'm like, well, you also might enjoy it more.
I'd be starting from the beginning.
Yeah. But also, like, having somebody to talk to while you're playing it too could increase the enjoyment. And like I was saying, there's a lot of references to Honkai Impact 3rd that if you haven't played that, you wouldn't pick up. And like, I could tell you some of that stuff as it comes up, and we could have discussion on that. Like, it could just be a fun experience. You could hang out.
Yeah, maybe.
But if you don't feel like it, we don't have to either.
I don't need to learn new stories. I'm old and crotchety.
Well, it's not really about learning new stories. It's more about just like filling in the gaps, right? Like, there's a thing that probably wouldn't make sense unless you have this one bit of referential knowledge that comes from another game.
Well, maybe I'll do a live stream. It's been so long. I need to get back to it. So maybe
I was saying, like, you might as well live stream yourself playing Ever Crisis if you're on it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Dave the Diver, so I could do that.
You could do Dave the Diver.
That's an amazing game. It's like there's so many different modes. Like, you'll be doing sort of the normal diving thing, and then all of a sudden you're doing this other quest that's like completely different. And it's like, I can't believe they programmed all these different things into this game. It's crazy.
I don't mind watching it. Like, I could watch somebody play the game and enjoy it. I found out it's not for me. And the reason I found out, because you get to play the main modes, like the actual diving and like the sushi night minigame thing. You get to play that in Nikkei right now. There's a Dave the Diver collab going on that started on the 4th. Like, the full game, sprites and everything is basically in Nikkei. And I've played it some, and I'm like, yeah, this just isn't for me. I'm not, like, mechanically, I can appreciate it. I'm just not really enjoying myself playing it. But I could enjoy somebody else playing it and, like, watching it.
Yeah, but they had this. There's a Dredge DLC, which I'm like, wait, they programmed the whole practically the whole freaking game of Dredge, which I've played and beaten, into Dave the Diver. Like, how did they do that? Like, wow, that must have been interesting, difficult. But then they also had this whole like Godzilla quest that's bizarre and different.
Yeah, I remember there was that crossover. Yeah. But yeah. Cool. It's not for me.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, hey,
Rick is here.
You're lucky that we're stalling in this closeout because we would have been gone before you came in here. Which we're leaving anyway. So
We're done.
Marsupial might stream. I really need to be streaming. If honestly, like, my evening schedule, these are the only 2 days that I really have available in the evening for stream. That's why we're scheduled this way.
Yeah.
If I stream, it has to be morning streams. So even like, I know Goodnight Spoon was talking about doing a cast. It would have to be a morning cast if there's some time, even if it has to be a little bit earlier. Like, I don't know, when he wakes up before going into work or something like that, we could do a quick thing. But that's the only time I have. So you might stream. If you do, it's probably evening. I might stream. If I do, it's in the morning. I'll put notifications out if either of us are streaming on whatever channel we're streaming on. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Please share the show out. Christ, share the show out. And if you want to go one step beyond, you can give a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live. Really helps us out. Or if you want something for it, I'm doing like summer sale $5 to $10 pencil sketch commissions right now. I keep retweeting the thing. So if you want something like that, go ahead, order it. Yeah, I'll do basically anything that isn't too raunchy. Like, I'm not going to draw sex or porn or anything like that, but I'll do your OC or your favorite character from some game. I don't care. We'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Where the heck are we?